I think are still our fundamental disagreement is that, like, I think we have a different perspective on how the scales are weighted here, and that you seem to have a perspective like Jordan Peterson, mostly good and maybe sometimes a little hyperbolic and a little overly political, whereas we have a perspective of like Jordan Peterson, mostly bad and maybe sometimes
some good
his
stuff.
his rules inspired young people, you know.
It's the Casey and Zoe thing.
There we go.
All right, so hey man, welcome to the Casey and Zoe thing. What should we refer to you as?
I guess Keswick.
Keswick
All
is
right,
fine.
awesome.
That works for us.
It's a pretty easy name.
Yeah.
Great. Keswick. So you think that it's good to say the N-word?
No, I don't. That's a straw man. I think it's neutral in the case that I'm talking about. I don't think it really
In
is
which case?
detrimental or positive.
What
The case
specific
that
case?
that his friends.
Oh, with your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, like I said,
with
if you-
our whole football team, basically, you know.
If that's true, and your football team is cool with you,
Well, and I will say here. I'll tell you. We didn't start it.
okay,
You know, it was our buddies. Well, it was really, I think Zeandre who started it. But he would, we'd be like, "Yo, what's good, my dude?" To be, if you replace dude with a different word.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
Thank you for respecting
so
TOS.
and then we would
Yeah.
reciprocate out of respect, and then that's kind of just how it started.
Got it.
Look, there are lots of closed groups of people that do that, and listen, if no one within that group has a problem with it, I'm not a voice of authority here. I don't have the right to tell you can or cannot say it, but I absolutely acknowledge that the word and its use is racist, and I don't have any problem with people being socially ostracized for using the word outside of whatever group is saying it's okay for them to use it.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I think with an R, 100%, but with an A, you kind of get into a different term, because there's a lot of rap music that a lot of lower class white people, my boys and I like. That uses that word a lot, and they put on Snapchat and stuff. There's no second thought about it. It's just kind of the culture.
Yeah, well, I understand.
Okay.
I understand that it's your culture. Also, I just want to make clear, like, just as from a historical standpoint, the A at the end of the word is actually an AAVE pronunciation of the word. It's actually pretty common in African American vernacular English that you replace ER in many words with A. So technically, it's just a different pronunciation of the same word. It's not that it's a different word entirely. It's the same word, just pronounced with an accent.
Yeah,
essentially.
And to be clear, if you're saying you should be allowed to say the N-word with an A at the end with your buddies who are I mean, some of these people are black people, right? We assume?
No, not one of them.
Not one of them.
Not one of them.
Oh, so the whole team
that's
is not
different.
black people.
No, I'm obviously they are. I
Oh,
don't know
okay.
why you would
Okay.
ask that question.
No, I
just
was just making
genuinely
sure. I
asking.
just wanted. I didn't want to
Obviously,
assume.
their name is Zeandre, bro.
Well, I'm not going to assume that someone's black because their name is DeAndre. I think that would be a little
think that's how
racist
it
to
works.
assume. But yeah, to go back to what I was saying, that if you have a group of friends, black friends, who think it's chill for you to say that around them, and they say it around you, and it's used as a term of endearment, then that's your business. I'm not opposed to that. So I think we're in agreement.
Can we
I think
read
we're in
what
agreement
Rags
there.
said? Or Ragnats, or I guess it's not Rags.
What about Ragnats?
Read what they said.
What did he say?
He brought up a thing here saying that there's a different thing going on.
here, this is
So he
Ragnats.
said the Big Brother thing. He said because this is a different instance, different context. So we can add a little perspective here.
Nice.
So he was saying, and I don't know what he's talking about, so I'm just gonna read it. Because I heard one thing, but I don't think this is the Big Brother thing I heard about. Because the host got fired.
Oh,
'Cause-
okay. I didn't know about this story. So I actually, just so I can read it out loud
Yeah,
for
read it out,
anybody
Zoe.
listening, I actually
you
will
do.
argue, however, that there was an instance on Big Brother where a little person said that saying the M-word to a little person is like saying the N-word to a black person. The black person in conversation flew off the rails at them for saying the word. I'd argue that given the use as a comparison to the use of the M-word, that's a justified use. but only because they weren't using the word to describe someone.
Well, yeah, I think I think I agree with that. In that, like, if you are saying the N-word to refer to, you know, the like someone using it, or because like there's a lot of debate about this, even, you know, in the Black community, of like, should people never say it, or if you're talking about like people saying the word, can you use it to just discuss the word as a thing that exists as a word? And I tend to think, yeah, like I think there's like an interview that Sam Jackson did where the interviewer was avoiding saying the word, and Sam Jackson was like,
just say it.
Like,
I'll
we're
say it
talking
with
about
you.
it, just
Yeah,
say
I
it.
saw that one.
And I kind of feel that, of like, if, you know, if you're talking about the word academically, sure, you know, like, it's not a magic word. And I think it has an intrinsically racist history that makes it good to at least be wary of using it without considering the current social context you are in.
So can I bring up another example that happened in real life?
Sure.
Please.
So not to me personally, but there was a professor whose name I can't remember, but he went on basically a grad trip with a bunch of his students and stuff. And one of his students he was talking with was saying, one of my friends used to say the N-word on social media and stuff like that. And it's years later. So basically the student was asking, should we talk to them about it? Should there be any repercussions for that actions? And the professor said, in what context did they say blank? And then he said the word full stop, right? He said full with the R, and then all of those students got together and wrote a letter saying that, you know, he shouldn't have said it and stuff like that. And then the faculty stood up for him and was like, no, he was using it in the context to try and figure out what was happening, you know. But then all of his coworkers wrote another letter saying that they didn't feel safe or comfortable with him being there, and so he got fired. That's the end of the story.
Got it. Well, yeah.
Yeah, so what do you think about that, how he was using it in I guess empirical, I don't know if that's the right word, but context.
Like an
trying to
academic
use it.
context.
Yeah.
Like to talk about the word, like someone said this word and I'm trying to understand, like, why'd they say blank? I do tend to think that that is excessive. And I'll say too, across the board, that I think people saying or not saying the N-word, I don't think should be a super high priority in the quest for greater racial equity.
I also think that the only reason he got fired is because of all of his coworkers, and who knows what their motivations were, because the faculty stood up for him.
Well, yeah, and in terms of that situation, I'd have to look into it to speak on that more specifically. I don't want to, you know, assume based on this telling and based on how you told it. I think, yeah, that to me seems excessive. And I think there are many examples of, you know, thin-skinned college students going too far, trying to hold some professor accountable for something that was
well,
not
this
that
wasn't even the students. This
deal.
is the people who work there.
Or the faculty, too. Well,
Same
that's the
thing.
thing, because whenever someone...
They might have not liked that guy and just gotten rid of him because of, you know, so that's why I think that part of the story is kind of whatever.
It's all possible. I mean, I think, you know, when you work with anecdotal evidence like this, like, while yes, the story has meaning, and I think, like, you can have an ethical debate about whether or not that should have happened. And I think Casey and I would both agree that was excessive.
Yeah.
For someone in the context of, trying to figure out what was going on, using the N-word, like, I don't think that necessarily warrants firing.
And I was going to say, too, just real quick, that whenever, you know, a professor is, quote-unquote, canceled by the you know, students or faculty, it's like it tends to start with the students and then the faculty carries it out. And I think in most,
I think that's the less relevant part of the story. I just wanted to give the whole context.
Of course.
Important.
And I think in most instances, the faculty is getting rid of them because of some, you know, it's not because they're trying to uphold noble values. It's because they see some threat, most likely to their income,
Tuition costs.
Like it's
monetary.
it's a profit.
150 mad employees.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you get mad employees, and then you get students who won't pay tuition. I mean, while
Right.
oftentimes,
Or just a fear that students won't
yeah,
pay
yeah.
tuition.
Well, oftentimes I like agree with certain decisions to like make like communities or whatever safer for everyone involved. The intention behind a lot of it is monetary, almost exclusively.
Yeah, and I
It's
think
just-
So
I think the minor nature of this issue too like goes both ways. Of like, I don't think that people who are pursuing greater racial equity in the world need to make a huge priority out of making sure no one ever says the N-word. And on the flip side, I don't think there's some great danger of like freedom of speech being suppressed by people saying like, hey, maybe don't say the N-word so much.
It's just like a very it just seems like an easy thing to do to not say a word.
Exactly.
It's just like
And again, like your specific situation, if you are friends with a bunch of black people and they want to say that to you and they dig you saying it back to them, and like I said, a term of endearment, then that's your little social context and party on. And I don't think that you having that experience in that little isolated context would then give you the right to say it anywhere.
yeah, I agree.
yeah, I
You
agree
know?
with that.
Yeah, cool. So I think
Yeah,
we
I'm
mostly
not
agree on that.
socially inept or anything.
Yeah, no, clear. It's clear from talking to you, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
by
yeah,
the way.
yeah.
And
Can I do like a bottom line kind of question about
Sure.
the story we were just talking about?
Yeah.
Do you think that that word should be used in academia, like when you're reading whatever? I didn't read that book because I'm
Oh,
Canadian,
like To
but
Kill a
that-
Mockingbird?
yeah, or
Yeah.
or Huckleberry
Do you
Finn.
think that
Yeah.
those things should be, referred to secondarily, or do you think that?
No, I think
No, I think-
if you're
yeah.
reading Huckleberry Finn or you're reading Uncle Tom's Cabin or whatever, I think you should be able to read the word out as like, I'm reading a text that has this word in it.
It's just like Django
yeah,
Unchained,
true.
you know?
Once it crosses a line into pretending like it's a magic word,
Yeah.
that like the mere utterance of it, like a black person loses their wings, like that's where I
Yeah.
draw a line of like, that's a little silly.
Yeah, I agree.
I think if someone's alone in a room and they yell the N-word, it doesn't matter.
Are you upholding white privilege?
Right, So I think we're in agreement there. And feel free if you have other questions, but I wanted to ask, I'm curious too, since I think I mean, do you have any other questions about this topic? I feel like we understand each other.
No, I think we're on the same page.
Cool, man. And then I also wanted to ask, like, how did you get into, Jordan Peterson, and what do you think, is positive about him? Like, what do you like about him?
I'd say maybe probably around the C16 stuff, because I used to live right around there. It was
So
probably
you're in
when I
Canada.
first got introduced to Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably when I got first introduced to that kind of things. And I would say for the most part, the 12 Rules of Life.
Yeah. Got it.
We went over the 12 rules of life on stream. We didn't
A while
disagree
back.
with a lot of it. A lot of it is just like, yeah, go for it.
I
Absolutely.
think a lot of his general life advice is solid, and I think everything I've seen in his life advice that I think is credible, I feel like is advice that I could get from many other places.
Yeah, it's not like an
And
exclusive
not
like
have to
Jordan
deal with-
Peterson
yeah.
special.
Not have to deal with the other baggage
Yeah,
that I
yeah,
think
yeah,
comes with a Jordan Peterson.
I would also say I'm agnostic, but my grandparents and stuff have always been religious, so I had a little bit of religious tinge. And hearing him talk about these stories and stuff that I've never actually experienced, because I didn't, I've never gone to church or anything like that.
Yeah.
It gives, it's very interesting to me just to hear about those things. That was kind of most of his content I would consume, I would say.
Interesting. And I'm curious too, like, which of his rules, if anyone, like, do any specific rules jump out at you more that like really spoke to you and changed the way you looked at your life?
I think one of them that I really took to heart was pretty much, in essence, the clean your room thing, which is the glass houses thing, right?
Sure.
Yeah, because I was still pretty young then, so it kind of got me to think, to worry less about what other people are doing. Pretty much, and I think that really affects a lot of things in your life. Because I'm still pretty young, So
Yeah.
I was under 18 then, probably still.
Yeah, and the thing I'll say, even though like I don't like Jordan Peterson and I think he's more toxic than good, I think that any, like for you as an individual, looking at his rules and having them speak to you and like, inspire you to approach your life differently and in a way that I would guess from what you're saying worked better for you. I think that in and of itself is good. Like whatever.
Can I add on one thing?
Absolutely.
I would also say I think it is part product because my dad is not exactly a verbose man, and we don't really talk very deeply about things, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of this. It's not a reciprocatory conversation, but you still kind of get that hand on the shoulder, deep talk.
Yeah.
Right. That not everyone is capable of. And,
Yeah.
I love my dad, but he's an extremely smart working man. He's not an academic.
Yeah.
So I learn some things from him, and then to get kind of encapsulate and utilize those ideas, you kind of need to hit a broader spectrum. So I feel like that's what happened.
Yeah, got it. No, totally. I mean, yeah, like I was saying, like if the philosophy speaks to you and inspires you and makes your life work better for you, I think that's a positive and beautiful thing. And I think that he's said a lot of stuff that it does not help society in my view. And let's speak really specifically about like Bill C-16, and you were saying how that kind of was what first drew your attention to him. Do you think that his concerns about Bill C-16 were valid?
From my perspective, I do think they're valid.
And how so?
Well, I mean, I live there, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much, and I live in Canada, and I think we have more representation with this stuff than in America, personally.
More
Definitely.
representation for trans and non-binary people, you mean? Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a more relevant issue here, right?
I actually believe that Canada probably.
So yeah, and when you use representation, do you mean you think there's like a higher population relative?
I meant percentage-wise.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So you
yeah,
think that there are more trans and non-binary people in Canada than in America, percentage-wise?
Yeah, like per
Got it.
capita.
Yeah. Okay.
Not impossible.
Yeah, I would say that.
I don't know for sure.
I mean,
but
I know there's like 3,000 in Nova Scotia, which has 1 million population.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
So
no. Very.
that's a good amount.
I don't know the statistics, but it's very possible. And certainly.
They just released Canada Statistics just released their first ever trans and non-binary report, taking all the statistics.
Nice. And have you, in your living in Canada and being subject to this law, have you ever felt that your freedom of speech or even someone you knew was encroached on by this law, and that you like weren't able to express yourself freely because of it?
That's my Gatorade bottle.
Nice.
No, I don't know anyone that would be affected by a law, in a position like that knows about any of this stuff, really.
Got it.
I would, so it isn't really relevant to me in that way.
Would you say it's fair if I said that, Jordan Peterson, what he was claiming when the bill was being considered was that people could be fined or jailed for using a pronoun that someone didn't identify as? Do you think that's a fair way for me to paint what he was saying?
Pretty much, but the whole jailed thing is like, you'll get fined, and if you don't pay the fine, you'll get jailed. So nobody's actually getting jailed for it.
But you're
getting jailed for not paying fines. So it's kind of a hyperbolic statement.
Well, sure.
To push it.
Well, don't you think
it's just politics? I think it's kind of a stupid thing that they were saying.
That who is saying?
The people who are against C-16 are like, oh, people are going to go to jail, but it's
okay,
like,
got
yeah,
it.
no,
they're
I
going to
agree.
be fined and then
We're
jailed.
in agreement. Yes.
So we agree on that.
Yeah, we agree.
Got it.
Yeah, it's just people going past the nuance doesn't help.
Yeah, I totally agree. And so if we agree on that, and then the fact that, now it's been 4 years that this law has been on the books, and there's no record of anyone going to jail, and it seems one person was fined for attacking a political campaign in a very clearly trans-bigoted way. Wouldn't it be fair to characterize what Jordan Peterson did as fear-mongering?
Maybe you could, but I would say personally, I this whole time have looked at it as a theoretical issue, right? Because I'd say for the most part here, everyone is supportive, so nobody's gonna be. It's not really gonna be a law that has to be used. I think it's more just that the government can start with, being able to control exactly what speech is said, because I think what a lot of people maybe make the jump from is from calling one person pronoun to like an entire group. And maybe if people who think that trans people don't switch genders when they transition, they think that would be eventually probably banned speech, because it's essentially the same thing but on a broader scale.
Got it.
Okay.
Well, and I feel like, do you think it would be fair to call that like a slippery slope fallacy?
Because so a slippery slope fallacy basically means like, if this happens, then this will happen, and if this happens, then this will happen, and if this happens, then the world blows up.
Because it seems like everything I know about C16 from looking at it, and many other people's analysis, is that it was not ever meant to control speech. That the point is to extend the same basic human rights that other groups like white people, black people, men, women, etc. Enjoy to trans and non-binary people.
But how is that the same? Because if I call Rachel Dolezal white, I'm not like.
Oh no, but no. When I'm saying the basic human rights, I'm saying like the rights to not be denied a job.
Yeah, it's not just in conversation.
Yeah.
There's multiple parts of it, right? Like obviously, no one is against that.
But I think that's one of the issues where it seems like Jordan Peterson was confused, that he didn't understand that the bill was a matter of protecting just the general rights of trans and non-binary people, and not about giving them special protections of no one can say the wrong pronoun.
I think where a lot of the confusion lies is that we are consistently conflating like entire entire rights with interpersonal exchanges and relationships. Like, you can be a fucking asshole to someone who is of a different race than you. I'm gonna think you're a racist. You're being a racist. I'm not gonna throw you in jail.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
they're not being a racist. If they were being an asshole because of the person's race, they were being a racist.
Right. I'm just giving an example as like a different situation.
You're saying,
I'm just being specific.
No, I understand. But I think you cannot, like, for someone to mess up a pronoun, you're not going to go to jail or be fined if you mess up someone's pronoun. It's if someone, like a boss, is intentionally misgendering you over and over and over again, discriminating against you in the workplace, or if you are feeling unsafe at a school or wherever. It's in these situations that this means something. What if it's
not a person in a position of power?
So like a coworker or a buddy?
Yeah.
I think when people go to work, they should be able to expect.
Wait, can I?
Yeah.
What if there's two hockey teams facing each other, and one team has a trans person on it, and the other team chirps them? Chirp means like to taunt or be rude to. You're a loser, you suck, you don't pass. What about if that one came up?
You mean let me get to make sure I understand this. No, I know. I get chirping. So you're saying there's two hockey teams. They're facing off on the ice. One team has a member who is a trans person, and now the people on the other team are doing the normal sports, mocking the other team, talking shit. But then one of them says like something specifically about the trans person, like "you don't pass."
Yeah.
I think that's transphobic. Yes.
Well, what if they say you're a little midge boy, something like that,
you
for
know,
someone who's like the shorter guy.
I think
I don't love that either.
I don't love that either, but I do think it's a different context because little people are not being commonly like killed in the street,
murdered or killing themselves
and there's no like real history of like for example, to go on like the racial tip, like little people were never enslaved in America. So like I do think,
at least as far as we know.
As far as I know. So I do think it is worth I think the historical context has an impact. Absolutely.
It's important to take into consideration like the meaning behind these things.
And that's the thing too, yeah, because ultimately the words are just noises. It's
Casey and I are big believers in this.
Yeah.
Words are sounds.
Words are sounds. It's all about intention and impact for me. Always.
And at the same time, if you have a knowledge of a history of a word, and you still opt to use the word in whatever context, I think there is at least the subconscious understanding that what you're doing is not the best.
Yeah.
I think not saying certain things is not hard, and I think being reprimanded for saying those things is not always bad.
And I would never support legislating it. Again, if someone actually tried to pass a law that said like, if you walk up to a trans woman and say, "Hello, dude," you go to prison, I'd say no.
I've been misgendered when I wore a hoodie.
When I was a little kid, before I had a beard and I had long hair, I got misgendered all the time. So, yeah, and the thing with that hockey team example, it's like I want that trans person to feel safe and included.
Yeah.
And I've no problem like and the funny kind of irony of it is like if you could just insult them without bringing up their transness, that would make them feel more included,
Yeah.
because
Well,
like
what if
the
that's
hockey
what
team.
happened?
If I can just finish, the hockey teams. That's what they do, right? They talk shit. They sometimes have fist fights. Like I'd be fine if you wanna like point at the trans person on the other team and go like, "You suck at hockey, you fucking idiot." Like,
yeah, I don't care.
That's fine.
That's fine.
That's sports teams talking shit at each other. But the moment it crosses the line into like fuck you because you're trans, you don't pass, whatever. Like you're not a woman, you're a man, or whatever.
There's just a
bullshit
greater
like
context of bigotry.
I'm like, yeah, that person's making the world worse, making society less safe for trans people, and affirming the toxic beliefs of transphobes, and I oppose that.
Do you sort of understand where we're coming from with that distinction?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing was the legislation thing, and you cleared it up, so.
Awesome. I'm
great.
so glad. Yeah, I think our biggest problem with Jordan Peterson is when I say, like, he's absolutist about this stuff, he takes things to an 11. No one has been punished for this stuff. And for him this fear-mongering, what that does is it fuels the fire of people who actually want trans people dead. You cannot make these people more scared of trans people. Because more trans people will die, and they have died.
I agree with that, and I also.
I don't agree with that. I don't see how that makes any sense. I don't see how he's making people scared of trans.
So
it's of the government. It's the government. That's what this whole thing is about.
But if he's taking a law and then fear mongering about it and saying that like you're gonna get sent to jail if you do this, like. That is like we talked about earlier. Like that is excessive and hyperbolic at least, and that does anything that reaffirms like because that's like let's just imagine the kind of shitbag person who would see a trans person on the street and kill them. Like I don't think that. There's a person who's like totally fine with trans people, and then they watch a Jordan Peterson video, and then they go out and kill a trans person.
No,
of course,
it's people who
there's
already like
someone
that.
who's already sick in the head in one way or another. Someone who already clearly is carrying some hate for trans people, and I think there are minute impacts to the scales of perception, where if that person who already hates trans people, if they hear a bunch of celebrated public figures saying incorrect, transphobic, misguided, misleading things, that can affirm them, that can give them a little more encouragement, a little more sense of like, it's safe for me to act out on these beliefs.
On the other end of that spectrum, if they think this law is impeding on their free speech, who are they going to blame? They're not blaming the government. They're blaming the trans people.
Yes, they are.
They're blaming the trans
well, I think it's a
Blaming the
mix.
government.
It's a mix.
But these
Everyone
people,
I know would blame the government.
That's fair, and maybe everyone you know would. And I think
I
to
also
be
there
think
are
fair,
people who
Yeah.
will
More
blame
libertarian
trans
type,
people
so.
for
Yeah.
existing and allowing this to happen.
Yeah, there are-
If the
there are-
transes weren't there, then we wouldn't have to do this.
there are full-on
I mean,
trans
maybe people say that, but I have never heard anyone say that. That
I'm
sounds
glad that you don't
ridiculous to me.
surround yourself
Yeah.
with people who say that.
Yeah,
That's a
your
plus.
friends are probably a lot more chill than that.
Yeah.
Which
But
is
those
good.
people exist, and I mean, at least in an American context, I can't speak for Canada.
No, yeah.
But in an
Yeah.
American context, that often is the issue.
We live in Hollywood, which is obviously a hotbed of leftists. Like it's a very
Yeah.
lefty town, and in the last 2 years, like a number of trans people, particularly trans women, have been murdered in the streets. Like it's a horrible, unfortunate thing. And again, like not saying that anyone who misgenders someone is magically causing some trans person to be beaten up or killed somewhere else. It just
it's not
it just
direct.
adds a little bit to the scales of injustice.
And when we have the opportunity to not add anything to the scales,
Yeah, I think you
let's
should
not.
seize it. I think we should seize that opportunity. And I want to be really clear too, especially since you've shared how Jordan Peterson had this positive impact for you and how his 12 Rules for Life, made life. It seems like I don't want to misrepresent you, but it's really saying like these rules really serve to make life make more sense and to provide a stronger roadmap for you to approach your life. And I think that's really
well, it's like if you're playing
great.
a video game, you go to the wiki to see how to play.
sure, yeah, and
That's
yeah.
like a way you can view it. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I dig that, and I want to say, obviously right now we're watching like a video that is comedic and making fun of Jordan Peterson and very much focused in on things that we would agree with the video creator are bad things that Jordan Peterson has done. And I want to be clear that all of that stuff that I think is bad that Jordan Peterson has done, that I think is toxic and wrong, to me does not in any way erase the reality that there are many people like you. We've spoken to other people.
Yeah, we've
on
spoken to others
Twitch
before, too.
Who like the 12 Rules for Life really helped them.
Yeah.
That can't be. I think if you care about the truth, and I do, I mean, it's the most important thing to me. Like, you can't ignore that. Obviously, there is positive impact as well
I will say,
from Jordan's presence in the world.
My dad read that book, and he doesn't know anything about this stuff, and he liked it.
Yeah. Oh, I think if you look at the 12 Rules for Life totally in a vacuum from the rest of Jordan Peterson's philosophy and actions, they're fine. I mean, we got them up on the screen right now. Stand up straight.
Oh yeah, I
with-
pulled these up for Ragnats because he asked a question.
Yeah, like stand up straight with your shoulders back. Like, yeah, it's like, when you stand up straight, you feel more confident, and other people see you as more confident and more trustworthy, and all these things. Like, most of these rules, I think, make good sense. So even though we will criticize what we think is worthy of criticism in Jordan Peterson, and will laugh at and enjoy a comedic video that's roasting him, I don't want you to think that we are ignoring or pretending that this other side of the story doesn't exist, because it clearly does.
I think the real problem here is while we do understand and contextualize that Jordan Peterson has written these 12 Rules for Life and they have helped people, and that's awesome. You also can't then on the other end say, well, it's okay the other stuff too then, because he
Right.
did
No,
some
exactly.
good stuff. It all exists at the same time. These things are not mutually exclusive, but you still need to call out the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Like what?
Like what we're talking about in the video.
Fear mongering around C16.
I mean, I wouldn't call it fear mongering personally. I know you could, if you could make that argument, but I'd say it's like slightly hyperbolic. But that's the only way that people are going to hear about it. that's just what the world is.
Well, and here's a question though: do you think the world needed to hear about Bill C-16, or
Yeah.
what if Jordan Peterson had never drawn any of the
Yeah.
attention to it that he did?
I think it was a good time because it's an issue that is definitely relevant, and I think it regardless of the pretext of how people got into it, it still got a lot of people into it and start learning about it.
Into
So,
what, like learning about trans theory?
yeah, trans stuff. Well, just that it's a thing that's going on. A lot of people didn't know.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, like, perhaps some of the publicity.
Well, I mean, that girl said this is going to be the world's most historic trans event, and I think you could make that case still.
The counter protest to Jordan Peterson.
Well, yeah, in a way,
Yeah,
but like,
because they still got, even if the message was muddied there, because it wasn't their message, the topic got out there to everyone on a really mainstream level, and that's way more than they were going to accomplish if nothing happened.
I mean, I think it's a tough. Again, like for me in this whole situation, I think the negative far outweighs the positive. Like I think
agree.
that there were way better ways that attention could have been drawn to trans issues without like a cis white guy misrepresenting a bill, with at least hyperbole, as you've said. Like I think, I think, and I think also
the
even
hyperbole
before that
was about the punishment, really, not about the bill itself.
Well,
And it's a logical end, but it is hyperbolic for politics.
yeah, I mean, like there are.
Which,
I think
I'm not going to fault someone for it, really. Like I think it's kind of annoying, but I know that it's like social media. You got to ride the wave. Like you need to act in these ways to make it, to get stuff done, to get your message out
well, to
there.
get famous, sometimes.
I mean, there is certainly publicity
message out there.
publicity value in being provocative. That is certainly a thing, and
Yeah, well, I mean, both sides are provoking each other, so it's like
I don't think trans people existing and wanting to talk about their existence in public is a provocation.
Protest specifically against him. Those specific people that went there.
Well, the first one was not.
Protest him.
The first one was just trans and non-binary people expressing themselves in public at a public event, and then Lauren Southern and others showed up to that and made it into a big right-wing spectacle. And then the following protest, I think, was maybe a little more targeted at Jordan Peterson. But
well, why didn't they target the rebel and Lauren Southern?
I'd have to look into it, into how much they targeted them, or I'm not sure exactly how much either of them were targeted. I'd have to look into that more deeply. But yeah, I mean, like again, like I think we're finding a lot of areas of agreement, and I think
Which
that's
I'm happy
great.
about, yeah.
And I think our still our fundamental disagreement is that like I think we have a different perspective on how the scales are weighted here, and that you seem to have a perspective like Jordan Peterson, mostly good and maybe sometimes a little hyperbolic and a little overly political, whereas we have a perspective of like Jordan Peterson, mostly bad and maybe sometimes
some good
his
stuff.
his rules inspired young people, yeah, I mean
I would say another thing is I really like the Monk debate versus Michael Eric Dyson.
I've not watched that debate.
I haven't watched it. We can watch it sometime on stream.
It's hilarious. It's super popular. I think Steven Pinker is there on Jordan Peterson's side, and then like maybe Bernie, someone who worked for Bernie was on Michael Eric Dyson's side, and they were talking about race. It's a great conversation.
So it's called the Monk debate?
Yeah, I think that happens every year, but it's
Oh,
if
got
you
it.
look at Michael Eric Dyson versus Jordan Peterson, it
Got
has like
it.
millions of views.
Let's check it. Yeah, I want to
We're
keep
checking
that
it out
so
right
we can
now.
watch another time.
Oh, it's long, but I would definitely
Oh
recommend
yeah,
watching
we'll,
it.
we'll like actually, yeah, we could do a whole segment.
I mean, there's a lot of drama too. It's not a super. They get at each other's throats in that debate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh, I see. Okay, we got it.
So, so the political correctness, a force for good? Question mark. A Monk debate.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, we'll
keep
watch it
this-
sometime. We'll keep
this
it on our
linked
back
and
burner.
We'll watch that sometime soon.
I also, just really quick, Cupio 12 made a point that laws like, I believe the one that we're talking about, encroach on basic human rights, and I would argue exactly the opposite. I would argue that being a naysayer of those laws encroaches on the human rights of trans people and non-binary people. I think if the basic human right you're speaking to is free speech, it's not...
Also, yeah, sorry.
I'm just.
Well,
I don't
we've
think...
never said that people should be fined.
Yeah.
We've repeatedly, explicitly said that we
Yeah.
don't think there should be laws saying people can't say certain words or that they'll be fined for saying certain words.
Yeah. And it's
Well,
not
I
about
think-
not being disrespectful. Just to say.
Well,
to Cupio
I think
12.
Cupio is getting somewhat to the point that it is a scale of, right? It's a scale between, how much should I be forced to do something for other people? Because that's really what's happening.
Well, if we have a philosophical difference there, then of what we owe to each other, then that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what he's on.
And
is
also,
pretty much
we're
he,
not-
He doesn't
yeah.
want to be forced.
That's okay, and that's why we don't advocate for anyone being forced. We are requesting that
that's-
people
That
voluntarily
they shouldn't.
don't be a dickhead by choice, not because a law forced you to do it. So like I just feel like Cupio's straw manning the hell out of us with this shit, personally.
And we addressed already that it's not about just not being disrespected. It's about extending rights in the context of a job or basic human rights as a member in society. It's not about someone misgendering you
Or disrespecting
or
you.
being a
We don't care
disrespectful.
about that.
Trust
Well,
me, I work in retail. I get disrespected every day, and no one's going to jail.
Yeah,
it's
for
like
sure.
that's not the thing.
Well, if they were to start disrespecting you in a racial way, they could go to jail.
perhaps
at
depending on
work-
the context.
At work, yes.
It's this line. Right?
Well, work is a specific context. It's about protecting workers' rights and safety in the workplace. That's a
Yeah,
that's
okay,
a different
well,
context
exactly.
from walking
What-
around on the street.
What I want to say is, I don't think anyone views this C16 issue as all the workers' rights all lumped in with it. They pretty much just think it's about misgendering. Even if it's not, I would say that's what the social discussion is about, is just misgendering.
And that's the problem with what Jordan Peterson was doing.
Yeah, is
that's
that
exactly
he
the problem.
misguided people,
Is that
and now the conversation
now
is
it's
totally
so
confused.
focused on that instead of the larger context. That's why it's
Well, I mean-
fear-mongering.
I don't think so. I don't really think so. They can just take the misgendering part out, rewrite it, put it back in, all the other stuff stays in. It's not a huge deal.
Well, it doesn't. Why does it matter if no one's been fined or like put in jail for misgendering?
Well, because this was before nothing. We have hindsight. We didn't know what was going to happen. That's the whole
Well,
thing.
it hasn't happened. This law's been in place for 4 years.
Yeah,
and it
it's-
hasn't
Yeah, but
happened.
at the time they didn't know what was going to happen. That's the whole point. Now,
Well, so now
know.
we can say, now that we know what happened,
we have
can,
hindsight.
Right, we can look at those people and say they were wrong.
Yeah.
Would you agree that they were wrong?
No,
Then why?
I'd say they were scared.
They were scared and it made them wrong.
Misjudging because they were scared.
They misjudged and mischaracterized a bill because they were frightened and paranoid, and then they said the wrong thing. They misrepresented reality.
No,
How so?
I
not?
think the bill is exactly as they think. It's just
No, it's
just
not.
No
though.
one is.
If
yeah.
it was exactly
Well-
as they think, then why wouldn't there be people in prison now for misgendering?
Because
they
it
don't
happens
do
all
it.
the time. It happens all the
People
time.
get misgendered all the time, every
Constantly.
day.
Yeah, but this is about positions of power and stuff. It just doesn't happen.
People in positions of power don't misgender people underneath them. I look,
Yeah.
I know things in the context of
not
America,
true.
Like-
and it happens all the time. I'm
Yeah.
not sure about Canada,
Well,
but
that's kind of where the bill is.
yes, no,
so-
I know, but I'm saying it's not a thing that doesn't
Yeah, well,
happen.
obviously, people aren't gonna do it because it's illegal. Like, I just don't see how that makes sense. Like, they would get sued out the ass. That's how it works. Like,
If an
they have
employer
signs in
did,
Tim
but
Hortons.
Yeah.
you can go out now. You could go walk out on the street and walk up to a trans person and misgender them, and nothing will happen to you. Except,
Yeah.
I mean, the
Except
trans person
I
might
would
punch
think you're an
you.
asshole. but
until they tell the police.
They want. Then, if this is the case, then why? Like, you really think that when the moment the law was passed, every person who
Well, that's
wanted
a
to miss.
different law.
Wait. But you seem to be.
C16
Wait.
is a
You
different
seem
law
to be
from
a.
hate speech.
Well, we're talking about Bill C-16, and you seem to be asserting that the moment it was passed, every single person in Canada who ever might want to misgender someone will now never did it again just because there was a law
No,
against
people
it?
with positions of power, like Jordan
Like
Peterson.
employers?
Yeah, like Tim Hortons, who have
That's
signs
again,
that
that's a
say,
different
"What's your pronoun?" on the
context.
door.
That's a different context, and they're allowed to ask
What do you
what
mean?
your pronoun is.
But it
Yeah,
also
well, no, I'm saying they're following the rule. That's the whole thing.
and that's a rule that I think is okay.
Wait, if it's a rule, then that means every restaurant would have to have the sign out front. Does every single
No,
restaurant have the
that's
sign?
not what that means.
Well,
that's a special Tim Hortons sign they made. It's not a
Okay,
sign
then,
you
but
need
you
to
but you
have.
seem to just claim that the reason they put up that sign is because they were forced to by the law. Was that what you were
No.
saying, or no? Okay,
It's because they are following the law, not because they're being forced to put up a sign.
they're following the. So you're saying if you're saying they're following the law, then you're claiming there's a law that says you have to put up a sign. Like how?
No.
Where's the
That-
disconnect here?
You're just extrapolating that. No, I just mean they're just, they're following the law. They're not calling people not their pronouns, so they're asking what it is. Like, duh. How else do you
Right.
follow the law?
I'm
without
saying, but
asking
I'm
what
saying
their
if you're
pronoun
saying
is?
that it is following a law to do that, that means that every restaurant that doesn't have that sign up is not following the law, aka breaking
you don't
the
need
law.
a sign.
Then that's
You-
not the
There's
law.
a
If you
sign
don't
right
need a
behind
sign,
it that says you
dude,
don't need a sign.
if you don't need the sign, then it's not a law. This is like, I feel like we're
What
going
does
to
that even
cuckoo
mean?
town.
I'm just saying it's an example. The sign is like secondary.
But
But the
it's,
sign is not following the law. They are voluntarily choosing
It's
to put up that sign.
Oh, well, I don't get why you're not. I don't mean
'Cause what you're
the
saying
law
doesn't
put
make
the
any
sign up.
sense.
I mean, they put the sign up in order to ask the pronoun in order to follow the law.
so you're saying that the law is that they have to say the correct pronoun, and the sign is there so that they don't get in trouble for accidentally breaking the law.
No, the sign is an icebreaker, basically.
Right, so that they use the correct pronoun so that they don't break
Yeah.
the law.
But you just can't say someone's following the law by doing something and then say the law doesn't tell them to do that. If they're following the law, that means the law says you have to do that. This is how the language follows. Yeah.
No, it's not.
How
you
is
just
so not?
completely extrapolated that randomly.
How so? How is that an
Well, 'cause
extrapolation?
It was just an example. I wasn't saying it's about that. It's what it stands for.
I'm
Like,
quoting you. You said they are following the law by putting that sign up.
Yeah, and they are.
So then if that's them following the law, that means there's a law that says you have to put up a sign
No,
asking
that's
people.
not what that means.
Dude, okay, we're going to
By
stop
me
because this
sitting
makes
here,
no
I'm
sense.
following the law of tax evasion because I'm not committing tax evasion, but I'm just sitting here. That's how it works. The sign
Right,
is
and-
just there, and
And the law of
sign
tax
is
evasion,
following
the law of tax evasion says you are not allowed to evade taxes. That's what the law says. So by
Yeah,
sitting
I'm
there,
not.
evading taxes, you are following
Yeah,
the
I'm
law.
sitting
Yes.
here following- exactly,
So if you're saying that them putting up
the
the
exact same
sign
thing.
is following the law, that means the law says that you have to put up that sign. Yes, you
No,
do. This
that's
makes
not
no
what-
sense.
This
makes
I don't
no
get what
sense.
You don't understand.
No, you are using language incorrectly.
I think-
you are.
No.
Yes.
You don't understand for no reason.
Any third person watching this with rationale, I'm sorry, man. You sound really goofy. It doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
Hollywood just said it. What do you mean? He said exactly what I've been saying the whole time.
They're going above and beyond in the context of the law. It's an icebreaker.
If they're
yes.
going above and beyond the law, then they're not following the law. They're going above and beyond it.
He's not saying that
What's
they're.
the difference between that?
There's a difference between following the law and not violating
no,
the law. Following a law means you are following the letter of the law.
No.
Not violating
That's
the law is different. No, this is language. These are what words mean.
If you're driving down the street, you are
Okay.
like normally you're following the law and not violating the law.
Okay,
How are
so
you
let's
not?
go to a different
How
question.
are you not? Okay.
No,
Okay,
because this
true.
doesn't make any sense. This is not
What do you
helping
mean? How
any
does
of
that not
us.
make
Can
sense?
I say something?
Yes.
When
I
you're driving,
I'm
how does that
understanding.
not make sense?
I'm understanding where you're coming from in that, like what
The
Eric
sign
said.
isn't welcoming anyone into the store. It's for employees only.
I understand what you're getting at. I think at this point, like we're having
Yep,
a
Ragnar said it too.
misunderstanding here.
Well,
The sign is not the
yeah,
law.
I know.
Yes, and I think what we're trying
Well,
to say.
and so let's yeah, sorry.
What we're trying to say is that when you use language like they're following the law by using the sign, what we're understanding that you're saying is the sign is required by law. If that's
Yeah.
not what you're saying, that's fine.
That's fine.
It's just that's not the language that was used there.
I said they're using the sign in order to help follow the law.
Great.
That is
okay,
what I
so,
said.
so you're
before,
saying
like 5
yeah,
minutes ago.
Got it. So you're saying, and I'll say I misunderstood. I thought you were saying there's a sign in front of the restaurant that when you walk
No,
in,
it's
it's like
employees only.
Okay, so it's a sign telling employees to ask for genders.
Yeah, it's only for employees.
Got it.
Right.
Got it.
No,
so
that would
makes
be
it more
so
clear.
random if it was in the.
Well, yeah, that would be goofy. But also, or
No, I mean,
not really.
I thought it would
It's
be
just like,
normal
it'd
to
be-
say like, "Hey, what's your pronoun?" When they like if they want. And to be clear, I'm not someone who
Maybe
says
at
like
Starbucks.
everyone needs to ask the pronoun all the time, everywhere, always. I'm not an absolutist about that, but like I wouldn't think it was that weird if a restaurant catering to the public wanted to make trans and non-binary people feel welcome and included.
Yes, I shouldn't have said that's goofy. I meant that was just like a way bigger thing. I was my
Well, yeah, and
improper
I-
use of my own language.
And
but
I think the point is there a law? Do you think the Bill C-16 says that no one can misgender or else they'll be fined? And if they don't pay the fine, they'll go to jail? Because that doesn't seem to be what the law is doing in reality. Because no one's going to jail.
And I don't think it's just, and I really, really don't believe that it's just because people are like scared of breaking the law.
Like we make laws all the time in nations around the world, and people keep breaking them after the law is passed. Like it can be, it's certainly a deterrent.
Well,
but to
I've
think
never
that
seen, I've never heard of it happening, and I live in Canada. I've never heard of someone. I've heard of one case actually in Toronto in like 2017. A girl who worked at a cafe started transitioning, maybe, or something like that. Somebody started transitioning, and then they got fired, and then they sued them. And that's the only thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah, and I mean, that's good. That's like
Yeah.
pure discrimination.
Yeah.
Should have sued them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and
but that's what the law is for.
and what
Yeah,
Jordan Peterson.
but that's the only thing I've ever heard of, and that was a while ago. So I mean, I just don't think it's a relevant thing. I
Yeah,
think
but
people are like, man, they got fucked.
I think if you're being realistic, you have to think that if you walked up to any trans person or non-binary person living in Canada or in America anywhere, and you asked them, "Hey, have you been misgendered lately?" they would say yes and give you multiple examples. Like I can't believe in this world where like this is just almost never happening. That's just
It happens
seems-
Well, what does that have to
absurd to
do with
me.
anything?
Well, it has to do with
people in positions of authority.
Well,
and power.
but the way Jordan Peterson fearmongered around this bill was to imply that simply misgendering people, not just in a work context, that the freedom of speech was being curtailed, and that you were no longer, that if you use the pronoun that someone did not want to be used, that you would be subject to fine and imprisonment. That was the narrative that Jordan Peterson spread around explicitly. So but at least we're in agreement that the law does not do that.
That's not what
Right?
it is.
Are we in agreement that the law does not seek to fine or imprison people for misgendering out in general life?
No, that's different stuff.
Okay, great.
Exactly.
So we agree on
yeah.
that.
But that's what we're
And that's what
trying
I think
to assert.
That's exactly what I think Jordan Peterson completely misrepresented and misguided people on.
Because, yeah, he's not saying, like, business owners, if you don't stop misgendering your employees, you're going to get in trouble. He's talking about everyone.
Yeah.
And this is not applying to everyone.
And he also did slippery slope fallacy out the wazoo with all of it, of like, this is where it starts, and then they'll come for you, and they'll come for the other people, and they'll go, like, he did all this stuff.
And to be clear, I just, as a general philosophy of mine, if someone wants to be called by any pronoun, just call them by that pronoun. It's so easy.
I don't care.
Everyone should just, whatever. It's so easy.
I already call people who go by cis people who go by he and she. Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't I do the same thing for anybody?
But,
Who cares?
but in the context of this conversation, you're not going to be punished by law for not doing that if you're not, like, an employer or someone in a position of power, which I think we agree with.
Yeah.
And with you on. And Jordan Peterson was not rallying to the employers of the world. Jordan Peterson was rallying to the everyman.
Yes, that your freedom of speech is going to be taken away by this law, and if you don't fight it, then they'll make even more laws to take away more of your freedom of speech. Like, that was the narrative I got from Jordan Peterson very consistently, in what I saw from him. Yeah.
And I think Cupio 12, there's more context to be had here. We're in his social media website This is different than a person-to-person conversation on the
Yes,
street. I think there's a lot more to be said about that.
Private entities having TOS on their sites is not a violation of freedom of speech. In fact, it is their freedom of speech to have the TOS.
Yeah, I mean, go to 4chan. There's
there's
full
already a
freedom of
place.
speech on
If
4chan,
you
and we
want-
saw what happened from that shit.
Yeah. If you want full
Well,
freedom of speech, it's out there and it's terrible.
There's not full freedom of speech on 4chan.
What is 4chan banning
Yeah.
some speech now? What are they banning?
That's great.
Or like,
you can't dox people and stuff like that. They delete that stuff.
okay, got it.
Great.
That's
I
good.
mean, I'm in favor of that.
I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, me too.
It's not absolute. Definitely not.
Got it.
And,
it.
you know,
No, that's an exception.
That's good
Links to
context.
bad stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, okay. So
I know that isn't really speech, but still.
Sure. I mean, I think, I think this was a good convo, and I hope, I feel like I have a better understanding of where you're coming from, and I think we've mostly distinguished our disagreements, and we don't have to agree on everything, and I'm glad we've talked it out. Is there anything else you still feel like is unclear on our end, or something a question we could answer for you?
Sorry, I had to burp.
No,
That's
good.
okay.
It happens.
I hate when people
I
get
think I'm
mad
good.
about that stuff.
Yeah, we're a bunch of burp bags.
Yeah, we
on
love
this planet.
burping. We burp and fart all day.
I just didn't want to burp right in the mic.
That's okay. If you
Appreciate
would,
it.
we probably would have laughed, but it's okay.
Yeah, we
Thank
can
you.
have a burping contest sometime.
Yeah, I fucking love burping.
I didn't know how greasy it was gonna be, so
Good
A
to
real
be safe.
like wet and juicy.
exactly.
Well, cool, man. I really appreciate you coming on and having this chat. I mean, I think we can all agree that this is way better than trying to talk shit out over text
I
chat.
can't with the text. And also it's just like things are it's really easy to misconstrue what people are saying over text, and because this is an open like online forum community, people are coming in who we don't know all the time, and I don't want to alienate anyone from our chat ever.
No,
so,
I'd rather not.
I don't care
I don't
if
wanna
you talk to
ban,
me and Casey.
I don't want to ban anybody. It would be the perfect world is if we could all just talk things out like this and at least understand our disagreements, even if we don't agree on everything. And I think us three actually agreed on a lot in this conversation.
More than I assumed we would.
And that's great. And
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty in the center, so.
got it. Do you, and I want to ask too, like, do you feel heard? Do you feel like we're listening to you?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's
And I would
Likewise.
also say, I guess I would say my position is I'm not for conservatives right now. I'm against the liberals.
Got it. Got
we
it.
don't
because
love
of the
liberals
way-
either. I mean,
Yeah,
I
just
Well,
their
yeah.
perspective on how reality is. I don't agree with, so
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to vote for them. But
Got it.
it makes me cringe voting for the stupid fucking conservatives too, because they're like neocons here.
yeah.
For sure.
So
Well, yeah, there's we're in a period of history with a lot of gray areas, a lot of nuance, and it's why I think it's so important for us to have these conversations, because I feel very strongly that like conversations are the thing that can save the world and save us all.
definitely,
Awesome.
that's
Then
the only way to bridge the gap.
absolutely,
That
absolutely.
seems to be moving. I think it's getting closer now. I think for like 4 years it was widening. I think it's getting better now, though. I think everybody's getting nicer, kind of.
Yeah. And Canada is a 3-party system, which is a little different.
Well,
than
it's like
America.
a 5-party system or something.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
2 parties and then a few parties that don't matter.
Yeah.
We have one conservative party, and the rest are all liberal, and they just fight amongst each other. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, man. So, I think now we're going to get back to the video, and I hope
for sure.
I hope with the context of everything we've discussed, like it won't seem like we're just,
Casey and I love
witch
to talk
hunting
shit,
Jordan
okay?
Peterson.
No,
We love
I
to
mean-
talk
Can't
shit.
help it. I love to talk
I
shit.
would say that guy's video was triggering me. It was so circle jerky. I just hate circle jerking.
Hey,
If it was a PragerU type video, I'd be the exact same way. I'd be like,
That's
"Oh,
great.
so annoying. It's
We
just
agree.
Yeah,
on
we talk
PragerU.
shit about PragerU constantly on here.
And the thing is always whenever someone, I think, a speaker takes a sort of comedic roasty position, in their approach. Like if you don't agree with their base political premises, it's gonna be unpleasant. You know, like
Yeah.
always.
I mean, I saw that native clip, and I honestly just from there I was just pure elephant. Yeah, if you know what I mean by elephant.
Do you mean like it made you feel more Republican or
No,
or...
like it's elephant in the rider. It means like your elephant is your emotional response, and then your rider is like your logical response. It's from Jonathan Haidt.
Oh, interesting.
cool.
Elephant, I'm not familiar.
I'm gonna start
with
saying
that.
It basically your elephant's your emotions. So I was
Right.
emotionally like triggered, and then you think about it afterward, which is the rider, so you control your emotions.
Well, then I'm extra glad that we talked with
Yeah.
our voices.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll watch, and feel free if you have more thoughts to share them. And again, if in the future, if there's something you think, you want to talk to us about, we could have another chat.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say last thing,
Yeah.
definitely watch that debate.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we will. We'll
We
probably
will.
watch it on stream at some
We'll
point.
check that out. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's I'm sure it's rich for
Oh yeah.
rich for discussion and commentary too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that would
Oh, it
be
is.
great.
You probably won't like either side. And
Great.
that will make
Great.
it pretty fun.
Yeah,
Great,
heck
great.
yeah.
Okay, so like I said, we love to talk shit. I can't help it.
Yes, love it.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of shit talking in that one, so it'll be great.
Great.
Nice. All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you for being here, Quezic. And yeah, we will have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk again sometime.
Yeah, you too. Do you want me to leave this Discord? Is it for your thing or?
I mean, we just use this to talk
chat.
to chat, and like it's nice to have it empty just so that like people don't come on 10 at a time.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can always re-invite you into the same Discord.
Totally.
Yeah,
If you wanna
I'll,
do
I'll
that.
leave it. I think that makes more sense.
All right,
Okay, cool deal,
Tight,
man.
tight, tight.
Thank you again for being here. Love that we had like a legit, sincere conversation.
Oh, the dog
and,
thinks the stream
and we
is
understand
over.
each other better now. It's really great.
Pippi
Yeah,
thinks
for
stream
sure.
is over.
I hope you guys have a good night.
All right,
you too,
you
man.
too.
Take care.
All right.
See you, bye.
Bye.
The call went wonderfully. Big happy face for you, Discord.
Big happy Discord
Well,
face.
great.
Great.
That
Glad
was
we had
what a lovely.
nice.
I love
Oh,
that
Pip,
because
stream's not over. I'm
Pippi.
sorry.
No, we just
We're
finished
not
the chat.
done
But
yet,
we
buddy.
can take you out for a minute soon. But
Yeah, say
compared
hi.
to the last conversation we had on Discord, that was really nice. It's I mean there's fun to the other kind of like the contentious debates can be fun too.
Oh, yeah,
and,
yeah.
And it's nice to know that it's possible for us and someone in chat to be like in a place where we're like, what are you talking about?
We're
This
like,
is
get the
stupid.
fuck
What
outta
the fuck?"
here.
And then when we actually talk, when we all talk in person, suddenly
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we're people and we can understand each other.
Well, yeah,
that,
it's
that
why
gives
I
me a
like
lot
it.
of hope.
Yeah.
And I'm
you
grateful
know,
for
it's
that.
funny. My hope comes back and leaves like daily.
Oh, sure.
Like I'm sure tomorrow or the next day we'll talk to someone who makes me want to rip my eyeballs out, and then I'll be like, everyone sucks. But it's nice to have moments of peace and conversation,
Well, yeah,
and
and
hopefully we keep moving toward this being the norm.
Yes, I would love for that to be the norm, and this is why I say so often, I love people. Like I am not.
Yeah. More than me. Casey
Yes.
loves people more than I do.
I think every human being is a miracle, even
Yeah.
if they're a scumbag Nazi. The fact that any person exists and is, conscious, existing in this wild reality, like it's amazing. And I think every human being has the potential to be a healthy, helpful, positive member of society. Like go to any group that helps like deprogram people out of like Nazism or the KKK or whatever. Like you're gonna find ex-Nazis, you're gonna find ex-KKK members. Like there is I think there's always hope
Yes.
for any person.
And
While a person is still devoted to a toxic ideology, I file them under toxic.
Yes.
me.
I have hope that people will become better. And I'm like, I'll bully a fascist until he cries. Like they're not mutually exclusive. Like
sure.
they can exist at the same time.
Well, yeah.
I do think that you can bully people out of their bigotry.
Yeah.
At least in their I mean, I think the best remedy for bigotry and things of the like is just exposure to other
Absolutely.
cultures and worlds.
Yeah, if everyone had the right to, travel around
everywhere,
the world, there'd be no xenophobia.
There'd be nothing wrong.
If everyone had some gay and trans and non-binary friends, there'd be no bigotry around trans and non-binary
it's these
and
little
gay
bubbles
people.
of people that validate each other's, existence or whatever.
And pundits who present these, inaccurate
the
narratives.
government's a whole other fucking, and the news and
whole
all
other
the
can of worms.
fucking nonsense. It's a whole conversation. But I think philosophically, I have hope for people to do well and fuck fascists. And both at the same time.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing, too. I think a lot of people think that in order to love everyone, you have to like everyone. And that's not true.
Yeah, no.
Those are two different
things.
things.
Yeah. There
It's
are a
just
lot
like-
of people I don't like.
It's just like often, maybe not everyone has this experience, but I think most people have, like, for example, a family member who maybe you love because they're family, but maybe you don't like so much in terms of who they are in general.
I have a few of those.
But you still love them, and even when you don't like them. And so I think it's really important to not conflate those things because it starts to go down this road where, like, if you go like, oh, that Nazi's a fucking asshole, it's like, hey, well, now you're just as bad as him.
Like, no.
And it's like, no. No.
We're not playing that game, honey.
On the one hand, I think it's good to acknowledge that hating hate is still hate. It's not love.
It's still hate.
It's still hate. And hating hate is like the most morally defensible hate. And that hating someone for being hateful is not at all comparable to hating someone because of the skin color they were born with. Or their gender or whatever, their sexuality. These are dumb things. Like if you're gonna hate someone, hate them for something they chose.
hate them for being an asshole, not for being brown.
Right. And also certainly don't go hate crazy, like don't, like, there is
Aw, man.
well, like a lot of the people who we like criticize, like we kind of feel like are like sort of insufferable social justice warriors. It's that thing of like there are people on the left, I think, who cross the line into getting so upset about the injustices in the world that they just become like a generally hateful person.
Well,
that
yeah,
does
it's
happen.
anger and it's unnecessary. And also what it does is it essentially just like takes fire out of the fuel out of the fire to actually make anything change.
Mm-hmm.
Like saying to people like, oh, you can no longer say master bedroom because it implies master and slave. Like that's not going to end systemic racism. I'll tell you right now. All it's going to do is piss off a bunch of bigots. It's just like, and some non-bigots are going to be pissed off about that too.
Yeah. And really you're just giving a new like marketing angle to real estate brokers.
At the end of the day, capitalism is a problem.
That's the thing. Yeah, like if your prescription to increase any kind of equity in the world doesn't include making rich people uncomfortable, it's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
At this point in the state of the world, I think you have to make any kind of positive, major, substantial social change happen, you're going to have to upset rich people.
I'm fine with that.
Oh, I'm totally fine with it. But yeah, that's the thing about even like something that we fully support, like gay marriage.
Yeah.
Like it's great. I'm glad. I think it's wonderful that it's legal now, and it really one of the biggest reasons why that could get done before like universal health care or college for all is because there's a bunch of money to be made
So
on
much money.
more weddings happening.
So much money. And also like all the Pride Month. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Huge
I don't
moneymaker.
know personally any gay people that wear that much rainbow. Like we like all black. We like a puke green. Okay, honey. But yeah, it's just like it's easy to capitalize off of gayness way more so than it
Yes.
is to capitalize off of ending systemic racism, because systemic racism allows for us to continue slave labor essentially in our prison system.
Indeed.
And yeah, so I just think let's piss off rich people, let's have conversations with each other, and everyone give each other a smooch on the forehead.